I'm Vishwendra, founder of Growth Sutra. Let me start with a hard truth. AI is being created faster than it is adopted, deployed, and monetized. You'd all agree. And that is the paradox of 2026. Models are improving, capital is flowing. Every enterprise vendor now has an AI slide. And yet, inside large organizations, pilots stall, expansion is inconsistent, production rollouts move slowly. There's not a capability problem, it is actually a distribution problem. And if you look at enterprise software, historically is scaled through predictable routes like direct sales, system integrators, value added resellers, marketplaces, consulting partners. Those channels work for licenses and subscriptions because traditional software could be installed. AI cannot simply be installed. AI is models plus data, integration plus governance, customization plus compliance, and ongoing tuning inside real workflows. That makes it solution delivery, not product resale. And that breaks traditional channel physics. So we have a mismatch, exploding AI supply, but fragmented, immature, misaligned routes to market. Moreover, buyers are no longer asking what can the model do. They are actually asking how does this tool survive our enterprise ecosystem. When we look at security reviews, data residency, procurement, integration backlog, change management, commercial sustainability, AI must survive all of it. So today we'll unpack this through two lenses: the invisible AI gatekeepers and the distribution death valley. Because in 2026, intelligence is abundant, distribution approaches are still scarce, and whoever solves distribution captures the value. So I'm joined by two leaders who are actually living this reality daily. I have Nick Caruso, co-founder at KnowledgeNet .ai. He's based in US. I have Dean. Dean is the founder of Sales Growth Imagination, and he's going to bring the commercial and sales aspect to this conversation that we have. If I have to start, I'll probably begin with a very provocative question to both the gentlemen. What is the most overhyped distribution channel for enterprise AI right now? Is it marketplaces, product-led growth, outbound at scale? There's a lot of noise, even hyperscaler co-sell programs. And do these actually unlock durable enterprise revenue, or do they collapse under enterprise complexity? So maybe let's start, Nick. Maybe let's start with you, and you could also talk about yourself, about your company, and then we'll move to Dean.
Sure. Thank you, Vish. So my name is Nick Caruso. I'm based out of Washington, D.C. I've been in the AI space for over 20 years. Washington, D.C. is the capital of the United States. The U.S. federal government is headquartered here. And the biggest adopters of AI have been the U.S. federal government for over 50 plus years. And they've been leading the forefront for it. So what's been really exciting is in the last few years, AI has been commoditized, meaning that small businesses now can use AI. Before, it was only very large companies or Fortune 100 companies or federal governments, et cetera. So, but now with AI, especially when ChatGPT came out, it really dropped the price of it. What was really exciting, the pivot in the last couple of years is business process improvement has been around for 50 years, plus. Mm-hmm. And using technology to leverage and improve business processes. The hurdle is getting management to open their eyes and ask the question, do I have a broken process? When AI has come out, now every CEO out there, every owner of a company is saying, oh, I should probably use AI. I don't know how to do it. And let me rethink my business model. So it's an explosion of opportunities now because the demand is out there now. There's the realization that your processes can be improved. What's interesting is I've been brought in on several deals where at the end of the day, they didn't need AI. They had a business process that could just be solved with something pretty simple technology. So you don't need to overcomplicate it using an LLM or a neural network or something like that. But it's an explosion of growth. But Vish, to answer your question, what's the most overhyped marketplace right now is, and I think it's always been, is that you've had these marketplaces like the Salesforce marketplace or the Microsoft marketplace and so forth, and everyone gets excited when they get accepted into those marketplaces and they can put their shingle on there. But the reality is I've never really experienced it as a big lead generation tool. I've experienced it more as verification. So when you're talking with a client and you can say, yes, I'm on the Salesforce marketplace or whatever, it does provide some level of verification and validation, but it's not a lead generation tool. So I'll end it from that perspective.
Okay, so thank you, Nick, for sharing your insights, and I understand. So when you're looking at marketplaces, it's not lead generation, but more for the visibility or credibility that you're a partner to these platform companies or cloud hyperscalers, and then you could be very well integrated with the enterprises.
Yeah.
Thank you. But that's something which you see as overhyped, or you see that that the adoption as still that as the as a channel, as a distribution channel, could work effectively for startups. I mean, you did share your insights, but I just wanted to understand it better in terms of whether you see that as a overhyped marketplaces, or you see that marketplaces could add value, but not that much in terms of discovery, but credibility.
Yeah, so I think it's when you have to think about it, and by the way, to anybody listening, I am keeping an eye towards the comments section. So if anybody has a comment, throw it in there. But I think what's really important to understand is who goes to these marketplaces? Like who goes to a Salesforce marketplace or Azure marketplace? You had mentioned, I think, ServiceNow, Vish, which may be different. IT admins go to these marketplaces. It's not the business owner. It's not the person running a plumbing supply store. They're not going to a Salesforce marketplace, right? So where the opportunities are where your customers are living and where so what are groups, if you're trying to get visibility on that, what are groups within certain industries that you can create visibility on where your customer is living or seeking answers? And those traditional marketplaces like a Salesforce, Azure, Google Marketplace, or whatever, it's just not where you're going to find the type of opportunities, at least from my perspective, to help companies deploy AI solutions.
Thank you, Nick. Dean, over to you. Which channel you see as more overhyped currently as part of the AI ecosystem?
No, a great question, and as you know, I'm going to be a little, excuse me, a little bit of a disruptor today. Dean Nolly, Sales Growth Imagination. I simply help companies grow, build sustainable sales models, and in most cases, I'm helping them redefine their go-to-market strategy of how they're going to accelerate. I'm going to say none of the above, Vish. I'm going to be the disruptor here, and I'm going to walk you through why. I mean, Nick touched on it. And by the way, it's a pleasure to be on with Nick because KnowledgeNet and what his team has done for my customers, helping them find clients to grow, I can't add more value to any customer. And it's a pleasure, Nick, having the founder of KnowledgeNet on this call. So thank you. Pretty fun for me. But I'm going to use, when you think about marketplaces, Nick already touched it. They do not create demand. Cold outreach doesn't create urgency, and PLG does not create trust. And trust is probably the most important. So the analogy I'm going to use, and again, being a country boy in the Southeast, I'm going to go back to my favorite movie of all time, a movie with John Belushi in Animal House. And this is what people selling AI, when they say 10, 20x force multiplier, and they're trying to take a shortcut, and not focus on doing a discovery to find the pain, Dean Wormer just put them on double secret probation, and they don't know it. They're probably already lost the deal and out the door. So, when I'm saying that, I mean, trust is the most important, and you have got to go back and do the basics with a discovery, making sure you're dealing with the right decision makers. And if that trust isn't built and you aren't showing the pain and how you're going to address that, you're already in a bad place. I mean, you're going to spend a lot of time, and I call it tire kickers. They mean well. They're enamored by your technology. They're really excited, but they're not the people who can pull the trigger and buy your product or your solution. So I think that going back to the basics on the trust, and I think it was the analogy we were talking in prep, and it is I told Nick I was getting him some revenue with my good buddy Ben on his team. I've got a large number of customers on KnowledgeNet. I did not have one that was under manufacturing, which kind of surprised me. So we had it. Here's a customer that absolutely trusted it, bought into it. The competition was selling, go back to traditional demand gen. It took one conversation, one meeting to link another manufacturer who uses KnowledgeNet extremely well. It's really transformed their business to make that sell. So ultimately, proving and having a use case that we could do what we said we were doing was the most critical thing we had to deliver, or we were not going to earn that trust.
Okay, got it. So I think what I missed is the referral. So I think you talked about referral because you refer to more customers, so that's why the adoption increase. I think referral could be a there's a because you also talked about trust, so there's a social proof that is needed, and these referrals could actually help the adoption. Yeah, that's a good point, Dean. Yeah, you're saying something.
No, I was in a conversation yesterday, and you talk about AWS Marketplace. I mean, a good platform, but it was in the form of a joke. It was saying that if you were suddenly about to close a $250 deal, the marketplace, everyone thought they had the deal, and when it came down to it, the CFO is sitting back going, "What does this thing do again?" So again, if you don't have the right decision makers, and to me, if they can't sign the contract with P&L approval, then you're dealing with the wrong people. We're going to deal with a lot of influencers, but it's critical that you have that well-defined up front, because, as we're going to talk as we go, there were way too many disruptions with AI in 2025 where people bet the farm and they came up extremely short. But again, when you start trying to look at AI as a silver bullet or waving a magic wand, I think it's like anything else in sales in general. You're going to wind up not delighting your customer.
I agree. So with this conversation, what we are surfacing is that the channels that look scalable on slides often had friction when real enterprise politics and compliance appear, which now brings us to the segment one. As I said, there are two segments that we have for this conversation. So we'll talk about the invisible AI gatekeepers. Let's kind of hear from Nick and Dean in terms of who could be these invisible AI gatekeepers within the organization. So when we look at enterprise AI sales motion, normally it revolves around the business champion, the VP of innovation, or the head of digital, the transformation executive that are excited about AI. But when the demo succeeds or the pilot technically works, momentum builds. But then months later, the deal dies, and not because of the champion, but because of someone who was never in the room. So that real no often comes from either the chief information security officer, or the data privacy officer, or the enterprise architect. And they do not live in your CRM. They live in peer networks, closed LinkedIn groups, or industry WhatsApp threads. They shape vendor perception long before procurement begins. But let me ask Nick. So, Nick, how do you penetrate such decision environments that you cannot see? And how do you map hidden power structures before your first pitch?
Yeah, this is interesting, Vish. And Dean, this is much more of just a sales 101 type of question, right? How do you manage an enterprise sales process? I think there's this concept that with AI, everything is magical, right? The solution will be magical, the value will be magical, the sales cycle will be so fast. For people like Dean and myself that have been doing enterprise sales for 20, 30 years, this isn't really anything new. There's always fundamentals. And so let's just talk about those fundamentals. For me, one of my mentors always had me focus on the 4 Ps in a sales process. So what are those 4 Ps? Proof, number 1, is, have you been able to prove the value of what you're going to do to help close the deal, right? If you don't have the proof, you're not going to be able to close that deal. Pain. Have you identified the pain of the customer? If you can't identify the pain point, which to me a lot of times is, I only work with clients if I can either make them money or help them save money. If I can't identify a pain point there that's going to help them save or make money, I just turn the customer away, because then it's just a pet project, an internal AI project. Like the last thing I want to do, like I don't really do like AI chatbots on websites, because can you really attribute ROI to that chatbot, right? Unless it's a real true pain point, right? So pain, what's the pain? Did you prove it? The third one is really important, that I always try and triage at the start of a sales process when I talk to somebody, and because I don't want them to waste my time. I ask them what the pending event is. Why are you doing this now? Do you have, is this a compelling reason, or is this something that you're just going to, I'm not being mean, but waste my time for the next 3 to 4 to 6 months? Or is there a pending event? And what's that pending event? It could be, we have the money now that we need to spend. That's a great pending event, right? It could be, we have a conference coming up, or we have a product launch, or we have something, but there has to be a timeline as to why you need this now. And the most important one, which you alluded to, Vish, is power. That's the 4th P. So if you're not in communication with the person that makes the decision, then you're wasting your time as well. So those are the 4 Ps. And oftentimes for my sales team, if they can't defend an opportunity in their pipeline with the 4 Ps, they don't have an opportunity, right? They have a hope and a prayer. And so and right now with AI, it's so easy to just think it's going to be so magical. But if you don't have the fundamentals of managing a sales opportunity like we've been doing for the last 30 years, you really have nothing, and you could end up completely wasting your time. So AI is not going to make the opportunity all of a sudden turn into a great opportunity. You still have to have those fundamentals. So that's my perspective, and I'll turn it over to Dean. I'm sure he has a lot of insight as well.
No, you're right on the mark, and I'm watching the comments from Jason and Butch. I know 2 longtime leaders. They're saying the same thing we are, and I would think of what my father told me growing up. He said, "No pain, no gain." Now, unfortunately, in those days, I was not a very good teenager, so there was a lot of pain. So eventually, I made the gain, right? But I think that no pain, no gain is the critical part. And if you think back to the one call that we did, Vish, my good friend Deepak, we were talking about some of the McKinsey and some of the state of sales facts from last year. And I tried to research, and while it doesn't quantifiably say it was due to AI, it was due to bad business decisions that companies did not make results in 2025. Did you know that 1 out of every 9 CEOs was fired in corporate America in 2025 in the US? Pretty staggering stat. The one that's more frightening, and this is why the trust is so critical. They're saying that CEOs are concerned that bad business decisions and around, in 2026, around AI or other critical business initiatives could cost them or one of their leaders their jobs. And I think the key is you have to be building the content and using AI to enable it. But it goes backwards to simple trust. People in the world I'm in, they expect me to sell them. I'm a sales guy. Even when I'm having a conversation, they think Dean's being tricky or crafty. I'm subliminal or negative selling them. And I'm just trying to have a conversation. But when you're around sales, even when you're not selling, it sounds salesy. And it's kind of hard to get away from that. So I think if you think about the analogy we said earlier, with me trying to convince a client that they needed to trust me, it still took them to talk to a customer who's using KnowledgeNet. And very quickly, that was all I needed because they wanted to have more substantial trust, even though it's an account of mine that, I love the owner, great owner, great friend. At the end of the day, I still needed to validate so that he could make the best decision for his company. I think that, one of the parts in these innovation centers, or as people are evaluating, I think that based on some of these stats, people get gun shy to make some of the tough decisions. So you're having some people, I think everyone's trying to pass the buck, and I mean that from an accountability. So people see the technology, they get enamored, they get very excited about it. But then people that would have easily made a decision in the past, they may want to have it to be a committee decision. They may want to pass the buck to someone else. I also believe that it's not a derivative of AI necessarily. I think it's a derivative of so many companies going backwards in 2025. When people try to use it as a force multiplier to make up and to make plans, to get back on track revenue or to make up a gap, I think that gets pretty dangerous because when people are doing that, they're making commitments to their leadership. The leadership's making commitment to boards. And I think that people are very gun shy because what they're trying to do is find ways to grow their business. So I know in the world I'm in, I'm dealing with 4 different clients right now that I've become a business.
So, Dean, if I may ask you, so when you're working with such complex ecosystems, what are those signals that can indicate true financial urgency, or where you could identify, okay, these are the people who hold the power? I mean, what are those signals that can actually give you an indication? Okay, these are people who might be the gatekeepers. They are they might not be in the front, but they might be in the back. They might be influencing the power within the organization. And what are those signals that you would read when you are interacting with these kind of clients?
Well, I think most customers that I know I'm touching, we just did 2 workshops in Atlanta last week. We did them in person, and there were 82 people registered. The common thread was, how do I make the right investments in 2026? I cannot afford to have another 2025. And the common feedback was, I didn't make those right investments in 25. I was kind of sitting on the sideline. A lot of people lost people in 2025. And on the sales world, if you're losing a very loyal, very experienced, long-term tenured baby boomer or aged millennial, that loss of that person is a substantial part of the business. And people are struggling to find people, get them onboarded, and then get them to where they're actually producing. They may have the best hire, but it takes time to onboard and train. But the number one common thread, I know this is music to Nick's ears, people are going, I can't run my business on just selling to my customers. I must find new customers. Well, guess what? Your competitors aren't going away. They're not going to go to sleep. They're not going to lay down and give you the business. So you've got to build your model to go and win and beat your competitors at their best in their best clients. So that is what I think people are coming to realization is I've got to really do some things different and transform, because you've got, you to win those new logos, you've got to do some things different. And that involves a lot of different decisions, Nick. I mean, on the onboarding, you're getting into HR leaders that may not have had as active of a role, but critically important. The fact of sales and marketing not being collaborative and having a good one-two go-to-market punch, CEOs aren't going to tolerate that going forward. They can't. So I think you're having a number of people, and I'm going to say the most important part, I'm seeing more committee decisions than I've seen in the past. And unfortunately for AI or any large investment, there's going to be that more people on the committee. And it's difficult to get an entire group to say yes and put their name on a purchase order and a check.
Yeah, there's been a question from Shilpa, and it is all stuck for us, or is it for everyone? Shilpa, could you share more context? If you got because I'm just trying to understand, which part there, because there's, normally there's a delay when we are having a conversation by the time it gets a stream on LinkedIn. But Shilpa, if you could share more context, then I can, reframe this question again to the panel. But let's also dwell some bit.
Let me just jump in just for 1 second. There was a question that came in, or a response to one of the statements I said regarding chatbots, and a person said chatbots on the right page deliver significant ROI, which I agree. For the right audience and promotion, they excel. Okay, I think what's really important for the audience here that's looking at deploying AI to their customers or from a consulting perspective. There are a ton of chatbots out there that you can chat enable your website, right? Maybe you do a project. 3 months later, how do you go back to that CEO and say, I helped you grow your business, and prove it to that chatbot? Now, you can't, right? And the point I'm making here is when you're looking at deploying AI to clients, really focus on, at the end of the day, that CEO wants to make money or save money. And you need to really be focused on, if the customer says, I want a chatbot on my website, obviously they're doing that because either they want to reduce their customer support team, right? Are they going to be able to reduce headcount from customer support, right? Or are they looking at it from a money-making opportunity where they can close more business? So then the question is, okay, great. Are you logging that information? Are you enabling an opportunity or a deal to be created in your CRM or your ERP system so that you can come back to them 3 months later and you can track and state, yes, you've created an extra $1 million in your pipeline from the chatbot. So the chatbot is a sales agent. They're not a chatbot. They could be a sales agent. And so it's just, what I'm saying is reframing it. At the end of the day, anybody that's trying to deploy AI, you're not deploying AI. You're a consultant helping that business grow or helping that business be more efficient. Your job is not to, AI is just a tool to enable that. I think it's interesting when companies are framing themselves as AI agencies, right? And I get that. That's what's gaining attention right now. You're not an AI agency. You're a business process improvement agency. You're a consultant to make the money or save the money. So if you lose focus on that, and that's why so many of these AI projects fail, because it's a gimmick, or they try and do AI, but at the end of the day, it gets killed because of change management, because it doesn't drive revenue or save money. So never lose focus on that. And that's my biggest takeaway that I've learned. And believe I've been involved in some projects over the last year where we failed at that. We ended up deploying AI to something. Did it work? Yes. Did the customer at the end of the day say, oh, wow, I've made $1 million because of this? No. And I just want people to, I think that's a mistake that we've made in the last year on some accounts. And that's something that I think is a huge takeaway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good point, Nick. And in fact, as you said, we should, especially the AI startups, should see themselves as more like a process management or process, accelerators, rather than just as a service provider. And this is very critical, when you're bringing AI in the ecosystem of your client. And sometimes, we get lost when we are so much when we are looking at AI, and sometimes we get disconnected from the external world in terms of the evolution that is happening from the AI perspective. While we keep our understanding of AI from what we are delivering, but at the same time, client might go through evolution at their end itself when they are, adopting certain AI tools. So you have to also evolve together with the customer, and you can only do when you understand their processes, you understand the evolution which is happening with their processes. Yeah, that's a good point. In fact, we got a couple of good comments. We also got a comment from Jason. He did mention approach needs determination present to the need. I think when you were talking about 4 Ps, he shared his comment here. We have a question from him, which is, if it is important, it must be measurable. 100% Nick. No, it's again a comment. I thought it was a question. But we have got a couple of comments from Jason and also from Robert. He's also shared a few points here. We also got a comment from Suresh, and he also, shared a positive insight here. But let me move to another set of gatekeepers. Like we talked about invisible gatekeepers and the power structure, the power map. But there are, external, stakeholders, for instance, cloud hyperscalers, or, you talked about marketplaces earlier, which could be a gatekeeper for some of these, some of these AI products. Sometimes on paper, it sounds good that, they could be an ideal distribution partner because they control existing procurement relationships. They control the existing budgets and also the trust that they have with the client. But as you said, Nick, as you shared that, these could be a good brand awareness. Adding credibility to your product, but in terms of discovery from the clients, that might be a challenge. But still, these could be seen as as a potential distribution channel. Apart from that, we also have service providers. So, for instance, system integrators. And there's some conversation which is like, service-led Trojan horse. So if we partner with firms like, say, TCS or IBM or Wipro as the trust layer, because they already have a trust layer into enterprise accounts. And if you partner with them, it can give you, it can open doors for you in those accounts. So does these kind of partnership, who are actually gatekeepers too for the AI product companies, can such partnership accelerate scale, or it could dilute product leverage?
Hey, let me take a stab at this because I think the two spectrums are uniquely different. And when I think of an easy button, and you start thinking of that part, remember the old Staples commercial? We had the big red button and you hit it and it said, hey, that was easy. Well, the reality is that doesn't work in this environment. So at the end of the day, if you hit that same button, you would find procurement sitting there or someone that you realistically in this world, you don't want to be dealing with. But I think on the AWS, if you look at the marketplace piece, it makes it a safer decision. It doesn't make it a right decision. It doesn't mean that someone has done the work with the right discovery. They're kind of going with a more comfortable approach. But when you get into the MSPs, I know I'm blessed to have two MSPs that I know well in Atlanta, Hong Wang at TeamLogic, but Dmitry Templiski at Alpha CIS, who's also a customer, and we get ready to onboard another. That's a different question because those folks are behind the firewall. They are trusted. These people are also big gatekeepers for their clients because that's their job to keep them safe and to help automate. So I do think that the MSPs, without question, are a great Trojan horse approach. And again, you must earn their trust, though, before you're ever going to get to their clients to touch them, to even have a conversation. So I think that part is critical. And I call it a reputation amplifier. And I know that I see Butch Nicholson's out there. And Butch is, I mean, one of his cliches, and it is so true, is I'm going to help you. He does a lot of branding with his live shows, and they're actually really good. But it's all about your reputation is going to walk in the door before you do. And I think that is something very important for us all to remember. I mean, when I first heard Butch say it, I understood it. But once you start really living by that, it's like, man, that one is so critical because we've already we're on the right track to win, or we already have a deck stacked against us when we walk through the door. And
So,
we need to be.
Dean, you talked about this. Yeah, you talked about this reputation builder. How should a startup build? Where should they? How should they build the reputation with the MSPs, considering they are gatekeeper to enterprise accounts?
Well, it starts with a conversation. It's not going to be an easy one, and what I mean by that is it would be. The analogy I would say is if you think about, I live in a world of trusted advisors, and I have some great partners that are CPAs. Unless someone comes running to them as a client saying, I am dying with sales, I need help, they're probably not going to give me a referral because it's almost their code of conduct, if you will. I think MSPs are very similar. You must really earn their trust, and they have to see the value. But here's the good part. The MSPs are living by automation and trying to find productive ways to embed AI and to really enable a lot more efficiency in the services they're providing. So the good news there is they live in this space and they are going to see the value of some of the AI opportunities that we're discussing long before I think the end user or customer may resonate with them. But it all starts with relationship. And I know that I see a lot of different numbers from State of Sales, from McKinsey, and you can pick the number. People are saying that you need to touch someone 6, 12, maybe 24 times to earn their trust. I mean, pick your poison or your number. But that is, it's not going to happen overnight, Vish, and it's going to be a long process. And that trust, if it's not built, those service providers are not going to walk with you and their clients.
Yeah, and as you said, they might be ahead in terms of their value chain, in terms of their understanding of the how the market is evolving, how their enterprise accounts are kind of, what kind of opportunities that they may see. The AI product companies, because of their ecosystem, because of where they have been focused, the AI product companies might face a little challenge in terms of convincing MSPs in terms of the value that they can offer, unless they have identified a wedge and they have positioned themselves on that wedge. But if I ask Nick, Nick, where do you see? Have you seen value in terms of these service providers, MSPs, or any hyperscalers for your product? Means, do you see that as a distribution channel?
Yeah, absolutely. So if I was a AI consulting company, or if I had an AI based product and I wanted to bring it to market, the very first channel I would go through is a partnership based channel. And so as Dean had mentioned, MSPs, managed service providers, which are the managing IT systems for small and medium sized businesses. That's a great channel to begin with. But there could be many other channels. Maybe you have something that is specific to car wash companies that own car washes, right? Let's use that as an example, right? I guarantee you there's some sort of network among car washes. Maybe it's the supplier to those car washes. Maybe it's maybe accountants, fractional accountants that work with car washes. But try and find that ecosystem of people that are already trusted advisors within those organizations and partner with them. What's incredible now, if you're an AI consultant or develop, have an AI product, is, especially as a consultant, the ability to demonstrate and provide a unique offering is incredible now to get the attention of these trusted advisors. And I would highly recommend, especially if you're new, is do something for free, or try and do everything you can to get in the door. Once you're in the door, then it's revolutionary. So I going directly to the end user is very time consuming. You're not, you may be going in there cold because you don't have any connections in there. So going in through a trusted advisor, then your multiplier is 1 to 100. They may have 100 clients if they're a larger MSP, as an example. And this goes back to more of a, from a fundamental sales perspective, going through your channel, going through your trusted advisor network is step number 1. That's really important. And then once you've landed there, your first car wash that you sold to, let's say, right? Chances are that owner may know other owners in that space. So then it's really leveraging the network. And that's something that, again, fundamentals of sales, a lot of people don't do. They don't leverage the network. They don't ask their client, can you give me a referral to 3 or 4 other clients? So it's leveraging that network. And that's, I'm not on this webinar with you to push my product or anything like that, but where we really focus on is a sales enablement capability to help leverage your network, to leverage your network to break into new opportunities that you weren't even aware of. But that's fundamental number 2 to really grow your business.
Well, yeah, that's a good point. So of course, sometimes these gatekeepers, I mean, there could be other stakeholders that you can tap who can become your partners in your journey. They can either become so even if you're talking about MSP, I think one of the things that actually strikes me is if you bring some complementary value to the MSP, they become part of your journey. They could be your co-designer. They could be kind of identifying the right opportunities in their accounts where they can position your solution while complementing their services. Similarly, you talked about some the network that can be approached. So yeah, that could be a good way to kind of to at least spread actually enabling the discovery through the network effect that you can bring in. But yeah, Dean, you were saying something.
Well, it'll probably go into the next question. I'll save it for there. It's going to be an example of. I am going to put in a plug on Nick and KnowledgeNet, but I'm going to give it in an example of how we're helping the customer, because it's redefining giving companies an unfair advantage to win business over their competitors. So I'll save it to the pilot's question.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool.
So let's move to that segment wherein we talk about the distribution death valley and we look at, once there's a pilot, what is after that pilot? Because so many times it so happens that the pilot get approved, the stakeholder within the organization, they sign for, they are impressed with your demo. The sponsors congratulate you. The POC worked, and then the what we see is the tool becomes one of the 50 tabs open on the business user laptop,
Mhm.
right? So integration gets delayed. The change management budget was never allocated. The pilot champion moved roles. Even users revert to muscle memory. So most AI pilots fail not because of model quality, but because of operational integration and unfunded behavioral change. So when Dean, we are talking about these kind of pilots, and sometimes these pilots can be leaking revenue. So, what kind of deal structure can be created, or how do you architect deals that move from outcome-led demos to governance-ready contracts? And if you are building these deals, then what are the pricing and contract models that actually force expansion? So expansion is baked into the initial sale rather than renegotiated from zero leverage later.
No, great question. I'm going to say that pilots don't leak revenue. I'm going to say that poor architecture leaks revenue. And I'm going to give a couple analogies. What I mean by that is if you're doing a pilot per se, people look at that like a science experiment. They enjoy it. They're having fun. They're learning. It's nothing around having a commitment. So I don't do any pilot that I'm not generating revenue. I have no interest to touch it. I can't afford to do that. My time is too valuable. So what I will do, because the one thing I know in the world that sales growth imagination is, no one can beat us on a discovery. I know that now. I know how good we are, but it's because we do the heavy lifting that I call it the four truths. We're dealing with what the CEO or owner says the issues are. We're uncovering what all the other leaders know the issues are. Sales is out here being renegades doing their own thing. That's okay, because I'm one of them. And then there's all these other employees that are the most critical gems in the rough. They're the people touching clients that the clients trust the most. They're on-site project managers, they're implementation people, fit and feasibility, sales support, tech support. And what we'll do on the discovery, we'll go in for a fee, and they range 10 to 20 grand generally. They could get larger based on the scope, but we'll actually do the discovery with about 65 different categories of sales strategy, sales methodology, the analytics measurables, KPIs, and the sales people organization. And what that does is that produces sales or gaps in a gap analysis, and it'll red flag or yellow flag. And a gap is saying everyone's saying, "Hey, we really suck at this," or a gap is someone is saying, "We're good here," and someone else is like, "No, we're really not good here." And you go into one-on-ones. What I learned, and I had some coaching from some of my peers like Bishop Bill in Charlotte or John Lee in Oregon. Put your money where your mouth is. So I'll go in and do the discovery as a standalone engagement, because I look at it as the owner may not need to do what I do. So Nick kind of touched that earlier. So a discovery may validate that they're going to do nothing. That's okay. You need to uncover that up front before you invest a lot of time and money. They might want to try it themselves. It's okay. They may not like me, and they may say, "Dean, can you help us get another advisor, because we just don't see you as the guy." Or they may go, "Hey," like I had one CEO that I'm in now, and he said, "Dean, I'd be nuts to not go ahead and go into a 2-year contract, because the amount of intellectual property you're going to learn in the first 60 days in my company, I can't let that go out the door. I'm going to need that help." And I'm only saying that because I won't do that without a definable SOW that will then build out the deliverables, but I'm going to hand them the intellectual property. In the world of KnowledgeNet, and this is where I'm going to give a plug for Nick.
So, Dean, there's a question, very related question that has been there. So, what is the best approach if one has a pilot solution ready to offer? So, I think he might be meaning is a solution ready for pilot, and the demos to contract conversion. How to accelerate? So,
yeah, that's a perfect question that ties to what I was going to say on KnowledgeNet. We're going to build a statement of work. We're going to go in for a 4-month minimum time period, and we're going to prove ourselves with the client based on that scope of work. It is not for free. There is absolutely a price tag around it, but it is allowing them to use the solution at a user level. We're going to take it to a baby steps, if you will. And then once we've proven ourselves and they see the results, we're going to then take that to many more users. So I think we give a more safer approach to a small business, similar to what maybe AWS in the marketplace, it feels safer, or if you're dealing with a Microsoft or, a larger player. But I think building a smaller scale
Dean,
approach.
Yeah. Let me also ask Nick. Nick, do you have any response to this question?
Yeah, I'm gonna respond under the context that the person asking the question has a product that they built and they want to bring it to market. So I'm gonna frame it a little bit differently than what Dean just did. Dean's points were really good. So a couple of things. So you've got a pilot product. If you've been in product development at all, you know the concept of an MVP, a minimally viable product. So if you've got a pilot product, you want to bring it to market as soon as possible. You want to validate that product as soon as possible. I think we've all seen the kiss of death is that you keep on iterating on the product, and then you end up losing all your money because you've burned through all of that. As far as bringing it to market, you want to validate that as soon as possible. So I always recommend leveraging your network, going out to the market, even if a person's not in your network, and being very humble, asking, there's this pain point I've identified. It could be like, oh, I'm a doctor. This was a problem I saw, and I came out with this product. I'd love to get your feedback if you think it's a good idea too, or whatever. You have to start with from the why did you build this product in the first place, and get validation. Doing like a LinkedIn campaign around that. No one wants to be reached out on LinkedIn to be sold to. The only reason a person's going to respond back to you on LinkedIn is if they think they're going to get value in communicating back to you, or a lot of times people are helpful. So if you reach out to them on LinkedIn or via email and just say, look, I respect you. I've done some research. You're a leader in this space. I would really appreciate 15 minutes of your time if you think this is a good idea, or I would love to get your feedback. That's a great way to get the ball rolling from that perspective. So I always think if you're trying to bring a new product to market, that's a great first step to do. And then the statement of the demos to contract conversion, how to accelerate that. That's all from there. That's the pilot process itself that Dean was talking about. So if you're brand new, you're just bringing a brand new product to market, I can appreciate you're going to do it at no cost. You just want to get some feedback and so forth. As soon as you've had some sort of validation, this goes back to one of your earlier questions, Vish, from access to power to the right person. If they're not willing to pay for your time to do that initial phase 1 proof of concept, then you're wasting your time. So that's a good validation check that you're talking to the right person, that they're actually willing to put some money down. So that, to me, that's the acceleration. Yes, you'll lose some clients along the way, and you'll be scared because they're going to say, no, I'm not, you haven't proved it to me yet. And then I would just walk away from that perspective. So those are the steps from an MVP to now you've got something that's of value. Don't give it away from that perspective. Have them put some money down to validate those requirements.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that journey is sometimes, very complex when you have to make some go, no go decision, whether, if the client is not willing to pay but they they may talk about, okay, this may open door for a bigger opportunity for you, and sometimes you have to assess whether that could be a strategic account, or that's where you may probably have a LTV for something which could help you sustain. But otherwise, if you are not making any revenue out of it, then that's something where you might have to move out of such engagements. There's also a question which has come from Suresh. How effective are industry SME consultants? As I think it's the context is, of course, the distribution, as SME consultants as a distribution model or a channel partner.
Hey, Vish, that's critical. And I was at a manufacturing group yesterday, and I've surrounded myself with about 8 trusted advisors that do Lean Six Sigma. They actually hire in the manufacturing floor space, so they're hiring welders, they're hiring machine mechanics, different resources that are in that space. So in my world, I have to find people smarter than me. So I know manufacturing is critical. I'm very focused around GMA, GAM, Georgia MEP, all the different groups that support them. But I've tried to find people that do things for manufacturers far different than what I do. And finding people that have those unique skills, it really helps you understand that vertical. So I think SMEs as a team approach with a vast range of skills is really important.
Yeah. So Suresh, to answer your question, yes, industry SME consultants are effective, and it all depends on what kind of engagement that you form with them, but because they understand the process, and as Nick earlier talked about, that these AI tools are actually being built to address the process gaps or process management in the potential client ecosystem. So any industry SME who has an understanding of those processes, they could be a great channel partner. There's another question. I think this is from Praveen Sawan, because I'm not able to see the LinkedIn username. So should one focus on a vertical or keep it open across sectors? So do you suggest, your initial distribution model should be specific to certain industry, or it can be industry agnostic?
I'll take that on.
Yeah.
I would highly recommend that if you're new, that you start with a certain industry specific vertical focus. A lot of times there's a lot of products out there that absolutely can be, or your value proposition could be agnostic to any vertical or horizontal, right? The reality though is that your client base thinks that they're special. They think that their industry is so special that they need specialized solutions, and that's so common. So let me go back to a couple of things. There was the chatbot earlier that we discussed, right? Let's say you do have a chatbot that you're trying to bring to market, okay? I would highly recommend, it's gonna be very, very expensive if you're trying to do a typical B2C and you're just trying to sell a chatbot to anybody out there. But if you said, oh, this chatbot is really is customized for car wash industries, right? Then all of a sudden you're gonna get the attention of car wash CEOs, right? And you can just market it that way, but it can be absolutely transformative if you do make it more vertically focused.
Yeah. Okay. So since we are closer to the, we almost reach an hour. So I'll just have one more question to our speakers, and especially in terms of when you look at, for 2026, what are the models, the distribution models that will evolve for these AI first companies? Is there a pattern that you could foresee, or you think it's going to be, more like keep on trying different channels, and then if one channel kind of gives you results, then you can probably strengthen your focus on that specific channel. So what are your thoughts, in 2026 or beyond? What is that distribution model or channel could be more effective for AI product companies.
Dean, I'll let you go first. I know we need to wrap up, so it's over to you.
Yeah, I think that you do need to try different things. When I think of 4 clients right now, they're totally transforming their business. They're adding new revenue streams, new products, new relationships to either complement their current business and or potentially an entirely different new business. And I think that thread is going to continue from companies. So I think where we can, any of us can find ways to understand that with these owners or help them build that strategy. I think that's where the real win is. But the number one thing, and that's why I love KnowledgeNet, is if I can help my clients or prospects get new customers, I'm an extremely valuable partner. And that's where I think 26, you must win new logos or you're going to get left behind by your competitors who's going to figure out how to win new logos.
Thank you, Dean. Thank you. Yeah, that's a very strong statement. And if you are not winning logos, of course, you must reassess your strategy, whether the product is kind of can create value for your potential customer or not. But just to quickly conclude, since we are talking about the broken distribution, we looked at different angles. But when I try to summarize, why the AI distribution is broken, because AI is sold like software, but it actually behaves like transformation. So we talked about the process transformation aspect earlier. The AI is also are seeing a lot of invisible gatekeepers, and we should be mindful of these invisible gatekeepers, whether people who are owning the data or proprietary data, or even in terms of the security mandate that they have to meet for the organization. And these are some of the critical gatekeepers that you should be mindful of. Apart from that, of course, there are external gatekeepers whom you can tap to strengthen your proposition. Traditional channels expect a resale margin, but AI requires co-creation or co-design. So obviously, if you could build your network that can help you, that can co-design with you or co-create with you, that could be a better approach rather than you going solo in the market. Marketplaces, as shared, they provide good visibility, but that doesn't actually commit the workflow adoption. So you have to be mindful of those aspects when you're picking up certain channels, especially marketplaces or even MSPs. You might have to understand, if there is a workflow adoption that would be part of these accounts where you can position your solution. Then there's enterprises actually lack a single accountable AI owner. While there has been a conversation about chief AI officer, but it's still the accountability is still not that strengthened. So that also you have to be taken into consideration when you are actually building a distribution model. So there, when we look at the winners, from the distribution perspective, while there is an intelligence which is going to be more abundant in 2026, distribution will still be scarce, and the winners will not be those with the smartest models, but those who could design resilient distribution architectures. And there are 3 patterns that are emerging. One is, of course, the service-led trust layers, bringing implementation credibility early, outcome as a service model, selling measurable business results. And we also talked about vertical. If you can focus on certain vertical, but then at the same time, if there's an embedded AI living inside workflows, so that can also become, that can also add to the distribution model. And here's the broader shift, that the next decade will not belong to AI first companies. It will belong to process native companies and companies that redesign workflows around intelligence instead of bolting AI onto legacy systems. And that is exactly what we are exploring next. So I invite all of you to join us on 19th March for the next 2020 Vision session. Why process native companies will win the next decade. If today was about broken distribution, next month is about a structured reinvention. So mark your calendar for 19th March, and we'll share the registration link in the comments. If this conversation has touched your thinking, share it with your teammates, with your partners. If you are building enterprise AI, rethink your distribution architecture and join us the next session. I'd like to also thank Nick and Dean for sharing their insights from their real world experiences and learnings. And thank you all for being here. See you on 19th March. Thank you, Nick, and thank you, Dean.
Thank you, Vish.
Thanks, Vish. Appreciate it.